Imagine a library where the books sing, where history is whispered on the wind. That's the power of African oral tradition, and it's being reborn in the digital age through African Story Podcast. What you were never taught is that these aren't just bedtime stories. They are living archives, political manifestos, and acts of cultural survival. For centuries, across Africa, stories have been the lifeblood of communities. Before writing was widespread, Griots in West Africa, also known as Jeliu, were the keepers of knowledge. These weren't casual storytellers. They were trained professionals. Think of them as walking, talking encyclopedias of lineage, law, and legend. They memorized generations of family trees, recited praise poems for rulers, and even mediated disputes between villages. They were the archivists, educators, and political memory keepers of their time. And this tradition wasn't limited to West Africa. Across the continent, from the court traditions of the Kingdom of Benin in modern-day Nigeria, to the stool symbolism of the Ashanti in Ghana, stories shaped identity and power. Take the Epic of Sundiata, for instance. Sundiata Keita founded the Mali Empire in the 13th century, around 1235 after the Battle of Kerina. His story, a foundational West African epic, wasn't written down for centuries. It survived through the voices of griots, passed down through generations. It's a tale of kingship, exile, destiny, and the very formation of a state. But it's more than just a hero's journey. It's a record of political alliances, military strategies, and the values that held the Mali Empire together. It's history disguised as myth. These stories aren't frozen in time. They adapt and change, reflecting the evolving realities of African life. A story about kingship might gain new meaning under colonialism. A trickster tale might reflect urban life rather than rural life. A proverb might be reinterpreted to comment on elections, corruption, or even migration. But here's where the story takes a dark turn. European colonial powers dismissed African oral tradition as primitive, as inferior to their own written records. They erased indigenous historians, censored spiritual stories, and replaced local curricula with Eurocentric narratives. They looted artifacts, like the Benin bronzes, thousands of which were stolen by British forces during the Benin expedition of 1897. These bronzes weren't just art objects. They were tied to court history, ritual, and memory, serving as crucial tools for preserving the Kingdom of Benin's story. This suppression fractured oral continuity. The transatlantic slave trade ripped families apart, severing language continuity, performance traditions, and ritual inheritance. Stories were lost, transformed, or forced underground. But the spirit of African storytelling couldn't be extinguished. Today, a new generation of African creators is reclaiming their heritage through podcasts. Podcasts like the African Folktales Podcast, African Stories, and History of Africa podcast are reaching global audiences. These platforms allow for the preservation of pronunciation, the capture of performance style, and the inclusion of music and pauses that bring these stories to life. They are reversing historical erasure, centering African voices, and challenging Eurocentric historical framing. These podcasts aren't just preserving the past, they are shaping the future. They are educating young audiences, documenting elders before their knowledge is lost, and connecting diaspora communities across the globe. They are using traditional forms to discuss modern issues, corruption, migration, gender inequality, and climate stress. They are showing us that oral tradition isn't just heritage, it's a living commentary system. African Story podcasts are more than just entertainment. They are acts of resistance, records of resilience, and a powerful reminder that history is not just written, it is spoken, sung, and lived. And now, it's being podcast. What will you do with this knowledge? How will you listen?